Judy Stiles. Thank you for joining us this week on Newsmakers. Well, people often think of the summertime as the time of year to travel, but travel is actually year-round, and it's year-round business, and focusing in Joplin on the Joplin Convention and Visitors Bureau, year-round activity. Joining me today, the director, Patrick Tuttle. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Judy. Congratulations on a great start for the school year. The campus looks great, and good things happening out here.
A lot happening at Missouri Southern. Well, thank you for coming today. And I know a lot of people, when they hear of the Joplin Convention and Visitors Bureau, they know that you're involved in helping promote Joplin, but how would you explain that to John Q. Public, who walks up on the street and says, well, what does the Convention and Visitors Bureau do?
We do that quite often. A lot of people come for us for information and things, which is good. We have a lot of the visitors rack information in our office, and we want people to come to talk to us for questions about the immediate area. But we are the tourism arm, I guess you could put, for the city. We mostly market Joplin 90 miles and greater outside the area to even include internationally. We're not really focused on promoting Joplin internally with activities going on, because a lot of different agencies, from the parks to the Y to you all, that have local activities going on, do your own thing. But we're focused on bringing people to Joplin. Actually, since we're funded solely by the hotel lodging tax, our primary focus is to put heads on beds, is what we say.
And the CVB's been in existence in Joplin for quite a few years now.
It has been, and it's not really growing in people, personnel-wise, but we're growing in scope. We've taken on a few things. We have a really good board right now, and things like Route 66, our local signage, our local activities, and even a piece of what identifies Joplin. What are those different things? What is our food known for? What's our music known for? What's our drink known for? We're working with those kind of things to really put Joplin on the map, more so than ever before, and certainly post-tornado era.
You know, for people who live in the community, sometimes you don't think about what the perspective is for people outside the community. You know, how do they describe your town? So you're really kind of helping present that image to Joplin, of Joplin, to other people.
It is. You know, we have myself and our director of sales, when she travels out to convention centers and talk to people about coming to Joplin. The question is obviously, how's Joplin doing, which is a great question. We love answering that question, and we tell the story of the recovery. It's really about the recovery more than anything else that's happening right now. And then when they get here, they see the full scope of things. But it is about what Joplin has to offer as a whole package, and that includes our tri-state area, that includes Route 66, it includes all of our shopping, our hotels, our restaurants. We have over 200 restaurants in this area, and that's phenomenal for a size of town that's here. We have 9 cuisines downtown, which is a really unique commodity to have in your downtown area. So it's a fun place to promote.
And you're really talking kind of the regional ties as well, then. You're saying it doesn't have to stop at the Joplin city limits.
It is. When we had the International Festival last year, we partnered with Miami and Carthage and Galena. A lot of the folks that travel the route a lot still ask that question: how do you guys pull off such a great partnership? And you know, it predates the Civil War. The mining era goes way back into the 1800s, early 1800s. So we've been together as a community for a long time. And sometimes we have more in common with our fellow Miamians than we do with some folks up in Jeff City or St. Louis, because we just have this common thread. And Joplin being the hub of the area, that really draws it in. We have an important role to play.
Great. Of course, bringing people into the community, once they get here, a lot of possibilities and things that are going on. There's some developments happening if people watch city council meetings. You're talking about some new signage. Explain what that is, and we'll have some examples of what we're talking about. But you know, when people get here, how do they find things, I guess, basically?
In 2008, Joplin worked with MoDOT and got the Wayfinder program established. You know, the Wayfinder program is the first level of signs off of the highway system. So let's say you pull off of I-44, and you're trying to find a district, which could be retail, for our case is retail, downtown, sports, and also for the hotel district. These signs get you to those areas. They don't sell anything in the area, they just get you to that district. So these signs, when they're put up, things happens, the federal and MoDOT highway standards changed. Just our luck.
So they changed the rules after you put
the
signs up.
They changed the rules, put a sign up. So what we're doing now, as you can see on the screen, those are the new design. And these are what's called retro-reflective. I had to learn a new word in this process. And what that means is they're the same visibility day and night. So during the daytime, they're as brilliant as they are at nighttime. And plus, a lot of ones that we have up today they're pastel color. They've faded. You can't really read them at certain times of the day. A couple of them have been hit by mowers or cars, and they just don't look as good as these do. These will have ornate poles on them. They'll have a better look and feel to them. So as you're traveling around, you'll be able to respond to the same sign as you drive through the area. We're also taking a look at the Route 66 signs, and we're doing more to designate our original route. If you know, Route 66 actually goes from Webb City, goes out 171 around the airport down Main Street, and there's a bypass that goes down Range Line to 7th Street. Well, those are based on years of improvement. They've added these bypasses.
And changed the path, right?
That's correct. Well, the original route snakes through what was called Royal Heights and down St. Louis and onto Broadway and then down to downtown area. And the Europeans, they want the original route. They want as much Americana as they can possibly touch. So they will look for this really designated. So what we've done here is these new signs we're put up will have Joplin as an indicator on there that let them know they're on the designated route. And one of the fun things with tourism nowadays, when you do something like this, like we did with the Route 66 Mural Park downtown on the Pearl Brothers building, people start Facebooking. And when they do that, it's a great form of communication, great form of advertising. So we want to put these out there where you can only see this in Joplin. And what we create is you've got to have this must-see mentality. And the Europeans, we have about 12,000 Europeans go through
that travel
our Main
Route
Street,
66.
66 annually. And this week, I know for a fact we've got a group coming in today, that are coming in this week of 45 Australians and New Zealanders. There's a bus company that plans about 7 tours a year, and they come right through Route 66, and they like stopping off and see our murals. They actually stop for the bathroom break in City Hall, but they get some coffee.
You can see the mural while you're there.
Yeah, they see the mural, they get a little bit of history, but they love it because these folks want to see the pure Americana, and our City Hall building is just a fantastic example of Midwestern architecture, very much a period piece, and it's a great City Hall, and they just can't believe it. So we try to focus on these things and do this. So the new signs will be, not only will they meet federal and state highway standards, they're also more attractive for our guests and get them around. We anticipate this new style should last about 10 years as far as the material being used in there. And it may be, we recognize the fact, or the committee that was formed to help put this together realized that maybe in the next 3, 4, 5 years we may need to add a medical district, we may need to add some education district or whatever's going on. So this program can be expanded if need be. We can add to these signs. They can be additional wording put into them and those things. So I think the citizens are going to see some beautiful signs put up. It'll help decorate the corners better than the signs we have up there now.
It really will help those people who come to town, as you say, get off the interstate. Where do I go from here to get downtown?
That's it.
Where do I go from here to get to the ballpark?
And then once they get to the district, that's when local businesses then promote themselves and put their signage out that attracts them. So
now, is
we
this
don't
being
want too many
paid for
signs.
by CVB funding, or do you have federal
Yes, it
funding?
is. No, it's being paid for by the lodging and tax that we use. We budgeted for this fiscal year to put it in there. Every year, a part of the percentage, the 4% lodging tax, every year part of that has got to be put into beautification and signage. So you notice the large welcome signs that are outside of Joplin. Last year, those were all refurbished. They're repainted and detailed. And this year, they're getting some new greenery put around there, and all new lighting has been installed the last 2 years too. So every year, we work with those, trying to beautify the entranceways of the city.
As you feel welcome as you come to the community.
That's correct.
Tying all that together.
That's correct.
Well, we're coming off of a summer when a lot of people were traveling. Joplin had some big events. We had people in town for a Mustang rally. You know, someone were asked, well, how did things go this past summer in Joplin? Did you have good crowds and good results?
This summer wasn't as big as last year, having the International Festival, but it was very busy. We had a lot of smaller things going on. This June was the 50th anniversary of the Ford Mustang. It's 50 years old, quite a car. And so this year we did want to compete in June because the two biggest events were in Charlotte and Las Vegas, but we put our own event out there in July timeframe and had that event, and it was very successful. A lot of folks from all around the region that are Mustang owners are coming here. In fact, this is a breaking news that next June, a different Mustang club on the West Coast wants to come to the Midwest. So we're now working with them. At the same time, the exact same day, will be a Corvette club in town. So
if you like classic cars, it's going to be a busy weekend.
Yeah, there's going to be about 4 days of Corvettes, and they'll be doing some road rally work, and then the Mustangs will be going out to Mocam for some dragging out there. But it really, this is a good area for vintage cars. There's car shows almost every weekend in this area. So a couple times a year, I hate to close down Main Street and mess up traffic patterns, but Main Street is a great venue for car shows, and so that's going to be a good thing. And coming up in this month in September, we're going to have Guilty by Association on Main Street. Almost 90 semi trucks will be on Main Street at the end of the month, and phenomenal.
And Main Street really becoming a gathering point, you know, the third Thursdays, things that have developed throughout the years for that kind of being a focal point for a lot of things happening.
It really, you think about it, it really is our biggest venue for events. I mean, we don't have a stadium or an arena. We have Liggett and Platt Center, but it's a lot of other activities you all have going on out here. But it's basically our biggest, we don't have a fairgrounds in the area, but it's our biggest venue. So we try to use it respectfully, not to mess up traffic, but it is a great piece to work with it. The downtown merchants and restaurants love it as well.
Well, I know with the different events and activities, recently you had a session at City Hall where people were asked to come in and give ideas about festivals. People might be curious, well, what was that about? What are we looking at, you know, for festival ideas?
We know for 10 years we had Boomtown Days, and it was a great annual festival. And we had it in August after the tornado, and it really just didn't have the same feel that it had beforehand. There's several things that have happened. There was a legal issue with part of the committee, and we lost one person from the committee in the tornado. And a lot of the folks who had event background with the tornado went on to, or with Boomtown Days, went on to other agencies to help them in the recovery process, which is good. So it got almost ran its course, Well, in 2001, when we started Boomtown Days, we did the same thing. We had a public meeting. We pulled together people who had interest in different events and said, hey, what does Signature Festival look like? And that's what we did. We put people back together again, some great ideas. We really found that what I took away from it is that it's not so much about having one event that fits everybody, like Boomtown Days had music, had carnival, had arts, craft, food. Right. They would like to see a couple different niches. So you have a specialty, and then maybe it's down on Saturday you have someplace else. For example, one thing that came out was Shoal Creek with the Wildcat Glades Waterfest they have. Well, maybe we make an ecological weekend. So they have their big event, and then on another day we have something with the people who are the green housing, something else. So you kind of put the whole weekend together there as a package versus trying to have one thing. And what I like about that is you've got different committees. You're not saturating
not one big group trying to do everything.
You don't need to have 50 volunteers for one whole weekend that you're taking their life away from them as well. But you also spread out the sponsorships, you spread out the money for it and those kind of things. So I think there's going to be some good things come out of it. The folks who were the former Boomtown Committee will take a look at that and see what they can muster out of it. There is some money left to help with some seed money on some projects. So even today, if somebody else has some ideas, watching this program has other ideas, please get a hold of us, because nothing is conclusive yet. We took part of the data, as the CVB took part of the data and took the interest, and we're trying to develop a Route 66 event every year. And we have a couple ideas that we're working with that, and I won't mention what we're doing, but it may involve the blues.
So some ideas were spun off of that meeting. So that's the first step in the process.
That's right.
People look at what's developing.
Yeah, we just had to reach out to a whole new group of people and committees and see what else is out there. And I tell you, Judy, it was really kind of interesting is we had a gentleman in his 90s and we had some people in their 20s that were at that meeting. It was, and it was interesting to see people reflected back on the old Fall Fiesta that Joplin had for years. People, were supportive of Boomtown Days. They've had other church events go on. Like I said, the Glades was one of the successful events in the area. So it's good to have some new ideas. And maybe it's just not we have just one big signature one. We have a whole bunch of things that happen.
Now, you've mentioned Route 66 a number of times, and of course, that nostalgia that came about a few years ago, it continues to grow as far as people wanting, not only Americans, but as you say, international visitors wanting to see that where the road actually ran, where it used to be, away from the interstates.
It is, and I can't take full credit for it. I mean, there's two gentlemen that I've been associated with, and my predecessor, Vince Lindstrom, was really an advocate for Route 66 and the idea of the marathon and all those things we worked on for a long time. And also Michael Wallace over in Tulsa, who is the gentleman who really, 1990, wrote the book that people really follow today. He's also credited with taking John Laster around to develop the movie Cars. Right. Car 3 is being developed, by the way. It's going to be exciting. So those two gentlemen really have the heart of Route 66 and in their interests. And I've just spun off with some other ideas to make things happen. But it really is an important part of Joplin. Our 8 miles that go through, we've got to take care of the entire route. We're in the song. I mean, that's an important part. We're only one of 12 cities in the song, so it's an important part. We have not been the best of stewards in keeping our old buildings. Downtown's looking wonderful, but our other buildings along the way on Broadway and things. So we're going to sit down. I've asked the folks who handle the historical preservation. They're going to sometime, hopefully September, October, have a meeting with the citizens on Broadway and say, hey, what do you all want? First of all, what are you in? Do you need more restaurants over here? Do you want more retail over here? Do you want more arts, what do you want? So as we develop something, we have their interests at heart as well. But Broadway is a great palette. I mean, it's Route 66 from the bridge to St. Louis. It's part of Route 66. And we've got to look at some things over there to really get people to notice. It's my firm belief that when they travel heading to the west and they get to 7th and Main Street and they turn towards Kansas, we will never get them to stop in Joplin. I've got to catch them before they leave Main Street, somewhere back on Range Line or whatever, to get them to spend more time in Joplin.
To stop at those places,
Exactly.
smaller locations.
And once we get them on Joplin, our hospitality, our restaurants, our retailers, our just the people on the street, our local hospitality wins them. It just never fails. That's why we have a lot of bus tours that come through right now. And we spend a lot of time with the bus folks because 45 people come in on a bus. And they're from all over the world. It's really amazing. And if we can convince 2 or 3 of them to come back on their own dime and spend some more time again with us, it's all worthwhile. Because they're on a very tight schedule with their bus groups, and they're probably coming out of Branson, they're heading to Oklahoma City or someplace else. So we only have them for 45 minutes to an hour. But if we can show them a great time while they're here, and they decide to come back to America on another visit, hopefully they include Joplin.
I know bus tours have always seemed to have been an emphasis of, getting people to just come see Joplin, get off the highway to come into town. Does that continue to be one of the marketing efforts?
It is.
Trying to get those tours?
In the business, that's called group travel. We have leisure travel, which was what you and I would do just on our own
Grab the family and go in the car.
It's leisure travel. We spend a lot of time with leisure travel. We have a brand new visitor's guide out, so if you haven't got one yet, stop by the CVB and get one. And then we work with group travel. That's where our director of sales, she does most of the time out to go into conventions that involve these folks. And they are your bus travelers, your religious groups, your school groups. We call them BIGs, which is boomers in groups. There's a whole generation of boomers. There's a group called Bank Travel, which is your seniors that belong to a bank account of some sort, and they do those surprise day trips and things. These are all people we target as group travel to bring them to Joplin. And so you see a bus in here, it's just, they're not in here gawking at the city. They're actually here on a reason. It's a planned visit. And we work real hard to get them to stay the night here. We're a great pass-through destination. Cracker Barrel and Golden Corral have very high ratings for a reason. It's called I-44. And the bus tours know they can get a lot of people in there in a short amount of time. And in fact, I think Cracker Barrel continues to be in one of the top 90% of hospitality in the industry. It's really amazing. And Golden Corral is very great on their service and high ratings. But those buses will stop at those type places so they can get in with 45 people and get out and everything. But there's a reason those 2 people are successful, and that's what it is. So we want to make everybody else as successful and try to work with them. So if these bus drivers or planners will let us know they're coming into town or even passing by, then our director of sales can then plan something different for them other than just the ordinary.
Great. And of course, part of your name is convention, Joplin Convention and Visitors Bureau. Do we still have groups that are booking meetings in town using some of the facilities that we have?
There the biggest challenge lies. We have a lot of meeting space in town. We have 30,000 square feet at the Trade Center, which is great to have because it's a great venue for more car shows or the different exhibits, the trade shows. We are hurting on the modern, what I call the modern footprint of conventions. And you have the convention space, you have the breakout space, you have the Starbucks, you have the networking all under one roof. And that design doesn't exist in Joplin right now. So it's a challenge for us to sell ourselves to the associations statewide or region-wide and get them to come down here because there's just so much competing. I mean, Branson's got a convention center now and 4 or 5 hotels that have meeting space, and then Springfield's catching up with us. So when we talk about the statewide associations, it's really hard to sell Joplin as the place for a convention. We've got to find other things that work. And I hate to keep mentioning the tornado, but we have great people that helped in the recovery. We've got some great minds that did some fantastic things. So selling them as part of the keynote speakers. When you're talking about having your convention, you want your organization to talk about future and development or growth or whatever. What a better place to come than a Phoenix like Joplin that's bounced back so well.
See firsthand what's been done.
Correct. And those keynote speakers we have, the folks that have done a lot of work on this recovery, is a great source for them. So yes, we're working on that. We would love to see something new come in. I do know that there's people looking at Memorial Hall to what to do about that.
Right.
They're looking at the Trade Center. They're looking at the spaces. There's some other properties that are waiting for the hospital to open before they make some decisions of what they're going to physically do. So you're going to see a lot of that area, especially around the hospital, changing. And Hearns Boulevard, that whole area is going to change. So we're just hoping we keep monitoring. We have a standing meeting space guide that tells what meeting spaces are available based on what size group you need. And we work very closely with that to use all of our meeting spaces in town as much as we can.
Well, I know this past summer, fall, you also offered some funding to help agencies with some, or organizations with some of their activities, which has been an ongoing grant program for years at the convention. It seemed to have quite a few people requesting funds this year.
This was an interesting year, yeah, especially in my tenure here. We have $120,000 a year that's put aside out of the budget for grant money, and this was part of the second 2% that the citizens voted in. They put event money into that second.
So it was designated by the vote.
It is designated by the vote of the people to have that in there. And it's evolved over some years and some times, but with the system we have now, I think it's pretty good, where we have nonprofit or for-profit events can apply for it, and then my board sits down and you got 5 minutes to make your pitch. You've got 5 minutes of Q&A with the board, and then they will go through everybody, then make a decision on how to spend that money. We have $100,000 that goes for the big events, which is up to $20,000 for any one event, and that's got to be within the fiscal year. There's $20,000 that's set aside in 5,000 increments for 4 quarters. So I've got $5,000 I can use in the first quarter, second quarter, third.
So spread it out through the year.
And that may be something that pops up. Something we talked earlier about the Carl Junction Bluegrass Festival coming up. They qualified for a quarterly grant for a small marketing piece. Even though it's Carl Junction, they're still marketing because we own the hotels. So they've got to use our hotels to bring people to town. But the $100,000 this year, we had 13 events that totaled $221,000 in asking for the $100,000. So we had to go through, the board had to go through the entire day process to hear these 13 events, and they whittled it down to which ones got which portion. Some that typically got bigger money got a little bit less this year because there just wasn't enough to go around. But the board, I got to compliment my board this year. They really looked at the mission, which is the putting people into hotels, and which events would actually fulfill that and put weight on that merit. And I think they did a good job this year on looking at the ones, because the scoring really showed that the interest was in those events. One event got full funding, and they will generate probably 300 hotel nights, and that's what it's all about. Some events got some nickels and dimes, but they're going to produce 14 to 15, 20 rooms on their end. It's all good, but I think as far as the ratios go, they did a good job on that. But that's an annual thing. If somebody's interested in applying for the quarterly grant or the annual grant, they can go to our website, and the grant information's up there, and they can pull that off and look at it.
Great. Now, you mentioned your board. For the viewers, you have an advisory board or a board that works with you as staff to
That's correct.
oversee what's happening with you.
And we need some people back too.
So you're looking for people who might be interested in board. So it's a citizens board then.
It is. We have 11 seats, and a few of them are dictated. We have 4 of them that are dictated by the hoteliers.
Right.
We have a retail person, we have a chamber person, we have a media person, and then the other folks are kind of at large in the process. But it's a good mix because, and I don't know how my predecessors have done in the past, but it's got to follow a tourism muster when we try to do something. We have a strategic plan now we follow, and it is looking at those leisure and group travel and convention type tourism and see how it fits in there. And I think we're doing a good job of hashing things out based on tourism. It's got to be looking at the tourism. We get requests for people that want to do things, and we don't promote locally. We just don't.
So they're not necessarily events that would bring people to town. It's for people in town.
Right. Which probably our biggest marketing conglomerate is coming up, and that's the holiday experience.
Right.
We don't produce a holiday event. We take as many people as possible that have something substantial that's happening during the holidays, and this year it'll be from November 20th through New Year's Eve. So if your organization has something that's significant, a church event or open to the public, it can't be a closed event, it's going to be open to the public, we need to know about it. And we put together what's called Holiday Experience. We put together a poster and a window card and all the details. Plus we have a Facebook page for Holiday Experience dedicated just for it alone. But we put all these things out there, and we've already got, I think, 9 major dates already. The parade we know is on December 2nd. The train, the Kansas City Southern train, will be in on the 15th of December. The Christmas windows for City Hall will be open on November 20th. And Thanksgiving, we know when that's going to happen. Around Thanksgiving also, not only do you have Black Friday for the retail, but that Saturday now is Shop Local.
So
Saturday.
emphasizing-
So we're trying to put all those things together to make it all inclusive for everybody to bring people to town for it.
So you're still welcoming people who might have something happening in that time period to contact you?
Oh
and
yes,
say, "Yeah,
please
let us
do.
know," you know?
Please do. Because we can't, we have a list we contact every year, but it's pulling teeth. You would not believe how hard it is. We
For people
started
to
in
tell you
July.
what they're doing, huh?
Yeah, we do Christmas in July, and we're just now getting, like I said, we have 9 events on the calendar, and 5 of those we know about from City Hall. So, yeah, as we need people to let us know. And like I said, if it's a church, or, you know, one of the best examples that probably an untold secret we have in town is the OCC Christmas choir every year. I mean, that's a fantastic living
Christmas
Christmas tree.
tree, right.
That's a fantastic thing that's gone on for many, many years, but some people are just finding about it for the first time. So we put all those things together, and what Missouri Southern's doing, as well as OCC, as well as the high schools are doing. So we try to make it be inclusive
Kind
as
of a
possible.
good, at one glance, community-wide, what's happening
That's
with the
correct.
holiday experience.
That's correct.
And speaking of at a glance, I know you have a website that allows people to find a lot of information.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your website, which we
Yes,
see here.
we're proud of it. It's more user friendly than it has been in the past. We still like to get some bugs out of it, but it's got things on there for information about where to go to in the area, what you can do. If you're looking for a restaurant, the restaurant directory is on there, the hotel directory is on there, and these are direct links right into our establishments. These are not like into the national websites. We want people to be able to go
Back
right
to
to our Joplin restaurant, you know, or whatever the case may be. It's got information on Route 66 on there. If you're trying to find directions to certain places, you're not to be amazed how many phone calls we get about the falls.
I've heard of
how
the
do you get
falls, how do I find it? Right.
How do you get the falls? So it is Missouri's highest continuously flowing natural waterfall, and so we get a lot of people come see that, and those kind of things. So it's an important website to have. It's very interactive. If people can't find something, they can always call us at the office, and we'd be happy to talk to them. The staff is very knowledgeable of the area and very friendly too.
Well, I know we hear so much about electronic communication today. You mentioned brochures earlier. Are you finding more and more people are getting information off the internet or off their phone, you know, to try to find out what's happening?
Yeah, it's a huge combination. I mean, there's still people who want that paper in their hand. The state of Missouri Division of Tourism is down to about 28% print now. So the
So they've
state's gone
reduced their
down.
amount of print.
It's pretty much a state guide, and then the maps they put out. We are moving in that direction this year. We just got a brand new visitors guide, like I said, has just been released, and we're looking at a few other collateral pieces that we're working on, but there's still people who want to have it. Well, what we've got to do is develop more for Route 66, because those European folks do want something in their hand, and we've got to make it motorcycle friendly of all things.
Something
because
small they can carry.
That's exactly right. Most of them are on motorcycles, and we got to be able to weather the moisture as well as the wind and those kind of things.
So for those of us in town, when we're driving down Zora or Florida on a nice Sunday afternoon and we see a bunch of motorcycles going by, those could very well be those tourists you're
and
talking
thank
about.
them for being here.
You're right.
I love when I see them after 4 o'clock, because that means they're staying in my hotels.
They're gonna spend the night here
Yeah,
in
if they're here early, they're probably heading on to Tulsa. But yeah, that's an important thing. Especially if you look on the backside, you may see an international flag flying. If they're from one of the European countries and they're flying with a company called Eagle Rider, they'll have their international flags on the back of their motorcycles. So most definitely say hi to them, and they're hopefully going to stop at the Route 66 Mural Park next to Pearl Brothers to take a picture.
Right. And that I guess we could still say relatively new, so there's probably a lot of local people.
It
who haven't
is.
seen
You
that.
know what? It's almost on Wikipedia. It's being judged by Wikipedia. We've written up the piece on Wikipedia, and I hope they put it on there pretty soon. So, I don't know what else is in Joplin other than the city's on Wikipedia.
Right. The claim to fame being on Wikipedia
right.
and tying that together. Well, a lot of things that are happening, and your role as director, I'm sure is ongoing. As I said at the beginning of the show, it's just travel goes year round now. So even though we're recording this program as we head into fall, you're not only talking about the holiday experience, you're probably thinking obviously ahead to next year.
We are, and we've been asked about a Route 66 event. I hate to keep going full circle here, but that's one thing that we seem to own as far as promoting Route 66, and we are looking at a couple things for next year. We're hoping to partner. We want to model like Holiday Experience. We want to model some of our local establishments, nightlife establishments, and do something really kind of cool. The idea, we had the International Festival here in last year,
Right.
and the idea of doing those kind of festivals without a fairground is really a challenge. But I challenge anybody else who's done a Route 66 event that we had ours almost 90, I think it was like 96% was on Route 66. Every event we had was either downtown Galena or Miami or Joplin or Carthage. It was almost entirely on the route. So that's an advantage we have with so much real estate to do those kind of things. But that's kind of where the key is, I think.
Great. Well, Patrick, I'd like to thank you very much, and we look forward to hearing more about what's happening in this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank you for joining me this week on Newsmakers. I'm Judy Stiles. I'll see you again next week at the same time on this station.